From the rugged shores of Scandinavia, a formidable force emerged that would forever reshape the tapestry of European history: the Vikings. These audacious seafarers, with wind in their sails and dreams of conquest in their eyes, navigated the treacherous waters of the Atlantic, leaving an indomitable legacy from the North Sea to the Mediterranean's warm shores. Their very mention conjures images of swift longships, dragon-headed prows cutting through the waves, and fierce warriors ready to stake their claim. But as they cast their eyes towards the misty horizons of Scotland, a different narrative began to unfold. Here was a land teeming with enchanting highlands, ancient lochs, and people deeply rooted in their cultural ethos. Scotland, in all its majestic splendor, beckoned the Vikings. This video will illuminate the intricate interplay between the Vikings' ambitions and the undulating spirit of Scotland, a land of beauty, resilience, and mystery. The Vikings, emanating from the Scandinavian realms of Norway, Denmark, and Sweden, initiated a remarkable era of maritime exploration and conquest starting in the late 8th century. Their voyages, driven by a blend of ambition, trade, and survival instincts, led them to far-flung territories, from the icy landscapes of Greenland to the sun-drenched shores of the Mediterranean, even as far as the Byzantine Empire. The Viking footprint grew ever extensive. Their prowess in shipbuilding, especially their iconic longships, became the wind beneath their sails, allowing them to traverse vast and treacherous waters with ease. Scotland, a stone throw away from Scandinavia, soon caught the Viking eye. Its strategic position and resource-rich lands made it an attractive prospect. By the 9th century, Vikings began to punctuate Scotland's coastlines. The Northern Isles, including Orkney and Shetland, became primary targets due to their proximity and navigable waters. These islands didn't just witness Viking landings, but soon transformed into Norse strongholds. And over time, Norsemen didn't merely raid, they began to cultivate, trade, and even intermingle with the locals. The Norse impact on places like Orkney was profound. Old Norse became the lingua franca, and the societal fabric began to display a vivid tapestry of Viking culture interwoven with indigenous Scottish traditions. Stalwart stone structures reminiscent of Nordic architecture dotted the landscapes, and the Northern Isles began to echo with the sagas of both the Norse gods and local lore. However, while these islands became the emblematic of Viking influence, the heartland of Scotland remained a different story. The mainland, with its complex dynamics, was about to pose challenges that the Vikings had seldom faced elsewhere. The idea of conquest is seldom a straightforward affair, even for the seasoned Vikings accustomed to raiding foreign lands. Scotland presented a set of challenges that were both natural and human-made. Firstly, Scotland's geography itself was a formidable adversary. This wasn't just a vast expanse of land waiting to be claimed. The Scottish topography is a patchwork of rugged coastlines, craggy cliffs, and treacherous waters. The Western Isles, with their jagged edges and unpredictable weather patterns, were not for the faint-hearted. Inland, things didn't get much easier. The Grampian Mountains stood tall, sentinel-like, their peaks often shrouded in mist, guarding the heartlands. Deep valleys, dense forests, and vast moors dominated the landscape, making large-scale movement and settlement a Herculean task. It's one thing to sail the seas with mystery, but navigating the complex tapestry of Scotland's terrain was another game entirely. The land didn't bend easily to the Viking will, but if the land was a silent, unyielding challenger, the human inhabitants of Scotland were vocal and fervent defenders of their homeland. The Picts, known for their intricate tattoos and fierce warrior spirit, had inhabited the northeastern parts of Scotland for centuries. With a societal structure steeped in tribal loyalties and a deep connection to their lands, the Picts were not a group to be easily subdued. Their guerrilla warfare tactics, coupled with their intimate knowledge of the terrain, often gave them an edge over the invading Vikings. The Scots, primarily settled in the western parts, presented another layer of resistance, hailing from Ireland originally and having established their own kingdom in Dalriada. The Scots were skilled in both diplomacy and warfare. Their alliances, especially with other native tribes, meant that the Vikings had to often contend with a united front. There were also other indigenous groups, such as the Britons of Strathclyde and the Gaelic-speaking Dalriata. These tribes, though distinct in their customs and languages, shared a common thread: a fierce love for the land and a determination to safeguard their way of life. So it wasn't just about overcoming mountains and crossing rivers. For the Vikings, the conquest of Scotland was as much a psychological battle as it was physical. Each tribe, with its unique strengths and strategies, brought to the table a resilience that was deeply entrenched. In the face of such resistance, both from the land and its people, the Vikings found that their usual strategies of swift raids and rapid conquests were often rendered ineffective. But the Viking expeditions to Scotland, while marked by several challenges, were not entirely in vain. In various pockets, they managed to carve out territories and influence local culture. Foremost among their successes were the Northern Isles, as we said before. With their relative proximity to Scandinavia, they became significant Norse strongholds. These islands, strategically located, were transformed into bustling hubs of Viking activity. The Norsemen established settlements, introduced their customs, and over time integrated with the local population. These islands served not just as bases for further raids, but also as cultural melting pots where Norse and Scottish traditions blended harmoniously. The Western Isles, including the Hebrides, saw a similar Viking footprint. Establishing control over these islands meant dominance over crucial maritime routes. Over time, the Norse influence was evident in place names, archaeological artifacts, and even in the linguistic remnants that survived in the local dialects. But when the Vikings turned their attention to the Scottish mainland, their story took an unexpected twist. Their dominance, usually swift and assertive, found only patchy success here. The intricate socio-cultural fabric of Scotland played a significant role in this. While the Vikings had managed to assert themselves in many regions, the mainland's unique dynamics thwarted their usual strategies. The unity exhibited by the native tribes was a force to be reckoned with. Despite their diverse backgrounds and occasional internal disputes, groups like the Picts, Scots, and others formed a unified front when an external threat loomed. The Vikings, accustomed to leveraging divisions in other lands, were met with a coordinated defence in Scotland. This solidarity among the indigenous people significantly hampered the Vikings' attempts to gain a foothold. History has repeatedly demonstrated that when civilizations clash, a special blend rather than merely one culture dominating the other arises, adding to the fabric of human evolution. The Viking forays into Scotland serve as a striking illustration of this phenomenon. As Norse immigrants arrived in Scotland, particularly in the Northern Isles of Orkney and Shetland, their powerful traditions started to meld with the rich Scottish cultural heritage. This was a true fusion of dance traditions, beliefs, and rituals. It wasn't just one culture layered over another. The Isles, given their proximity to Scandinavia, became crucibles of this cultural amalgamation. Old Norse sagas intertwined with local legends, birthing stories that resonated with the essence of both worlds. The linguistic landscape also underwent transformation. Place names bore the stamp of North and Scottish influences, creating a lexicon that spoke of shared histories. Architectural relics, from stone structures to artifacts discovered, bore hallmarks of Norse craftsmanship blended with Scottish designs. The story of the Vikings in Scotland is one filled with aspirations and a realization that even the mightiest of seafarers must yield to the unyielding character of a land and its people. While the Vikings marked their influence across vast territories, the craggy cliffs and resilient spirit of Scotland held them at bay, leaving their dreams in this particular land only partially fulfilled. The interplay of history, culture, and geography found in this saga resonates as a rich illustration of human endeavour and complexity. It's a fascinating chapter that adds depth to our understanding of both the Vikings and the Scots. If this exploration into the world of Vikings and the mysteries of Scotland has piqued your interest, please consider subscribing to the FactVoyage channel and dropping a like on this video. Together, we can continue to unearth more incredible stories from our shared past.